I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request. That moment at Gate 24 shattered everything I thought I knew about family and love. What I didn't expect was how that painful betrayal would eventually reveal the truth about my past and change my life entirely. Before I explain how I went from being left behind at Gate 24 to uncovering my real family, you'll want to hear what happened when my mother came back to find my bedroom completely empty. My early years with her were mostly happy. I remember weekend trips to the local park where she pushed me on the swings until my stomach flicked with excitement. On my 6th birthday, she baked a crooked chocolate cake and decorated our tiny apartment with paper streamers she had made herself. We didn't have much, but we had each other. At the time, that felt like enough. Everything shifted when I was 8. One afternoon after school, I walked into the living room and found my parents sitting stiffly at opposite ends of our worn-out couch. The air was tense as they told me they were divorcing. Their explanation was short. Sometimes adults stop loving each other. That left me with far more questions than answers. I cried myself to sleep that night, clutching my stuffed rabbit as their muffled arguments seeped through the wall. After the divorce, my mom received primary custody. My dad's presence quickly faded. Our weekends together slipped from every other week to once a month, and then to rare, uncomfortable phone calls. By the time I was 10, he was little more than a name on my birth certificate. Life with just my mother wasn't easy. She worked 2 jobs, waitressing by day and cleaning offices at night. I grew used to microwave dinners and letting myself into the apartment with the key I wore around my neck. Despite the financial strain, our lives felt somewhat steady. I understood the rules, my responsibilities, and that I was important to her. But everything shifted again when I turned 13. That was the year my mom met Cassian at the restaurant where she worked. He was a wealthy businessman who always left big tips and asked for her section whenever he dined there. I still remember her blushing the first time she mentioned him, describing his polished suit and how he looked at her like she was special. Their relationship moved fast. Within 6 months, Cassian proposed with a diamond ring so large it seemed out of place on her work-worn hands. Soon after, we moved into a sprawling suburban mansion, complete with a pool, a home theater, and more bathrooms than I could count. Cassian's 3 kids from his first marriage also lived there. Aurelia, 14, was just a year older than me, but her constant look of disdain made me feel small. Ronan, at 12, barely noticed me, while Leora, the youngest at 10, welcomed me at first, but quickly changed once we were all living together. From the beginning, it was clear I didn't belong in this ready-made family. Cassian was polite but distant, saving his warmth for his own children. At dinner, he and my mom discussed private schools, country clubs, and vacation homes, things I had never heard about before. When I shared something about school or books, my words were met with a quick nod before the topic returned to his children's latest accomplishments in tennis, debate, or piano. What hurt most was watching my mom transform. What hurt most was watching my mom transform. The woman who once cut coupons and hunted clearance racks now spoke easily about designer brands and exclusive clubs. She dyed her hair, whitened her teeth, and jokingly called our old life the struggle years whenever Cassian's friends were around. It felt like she was shedding her old self, and along with it, her bond with me. I tried to connect with my new step-siblings. I offered to help Aurelia with math, praised Leora's drawings, and asked Ronan about his video games. My efforts were met with indifference at best and rejection at worst. I'll never forget overhearing Aurelia on the phone telling her friend that her dad's new wife had come with extra baggage, and she meant me. As summer approached, Cassian announced a family vacation to Bali. 2 weeks in a luxury resort with private villas and personal butlers. Despite the distance growing between my mom and me, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe this trip would give me a chance to finally bond with them, away from the pressures of daily life. But that hope didn't last. When my mom took the stepkids shopping for new clothes for the trip, she left me out. When I asked why, she brushed it off, saying I already had plenty. Most of mine were from before she met Cassian, but I stayed quiet. Using the babysitting money I'd saved, I bought myself a simple blue one-piece swimsuit, nothing like the designer bikinis Aurelia and Leora would bring. A week before we were supposed to leave, I overheard a conversation between my mom and Cassian. Their bedroom door was slightly open as I walked by. "What about arrangements for Elo?" Cassian asked quietly. "It's all handled," my mom replied, in a dismissive tone that twisted my stomach. "She won't be an issue." When I asked her about it later, she waved it off with, "Just trip details, honey. Nothing for you to worry about." The blue carpet stretched beneath my feet as I brushed my fingertips across the plush duvet, struck by the stark difference between this comfort and the life I had known. After showering in the spotless bathroom, equipped with a rainfall showerhead and more toiletries than I had ever owned, I slipped back into yesterday's clothes and headed downstairs. In the kitchen, I found my father attempting pancakes with limited success. "Good morning," he said, giving me an embarrassed smile while pointing to the misshapen pancake in the pan. "I thought I'd make breakfast, but it seems my cooking hasn't improved since you were little." The memory resurfaced. Sunday mornings, when he tried pancakes while my mother slept in. They were often oddly shaped or slightly burnt, but he served them proudly, and I never complained. "I remember your pancakes," I said, settling onto a stool at the kitchen island. "You used to make smiley faces with chocolate chips." His face brightened. "You remember that? You were so young." "Some things stick," I replied, taking the platter he handed me. Despite their appearance, the pancakes tasted wonderful, and sharing breakfast eased some of the tension between us. Afterward, he gave me a full tour of the house and property. The grounds stretched to private beach access, while inside, there was a gym, a theater room, and an office with sweeping views that could distract anyone. "I'd like you to meet someone today, if you're up to it," he said as we returned to the living room. An hour later, I sat across from a sophisticated woman in her 50s, Rowena Pike, a family law attorney. "What your mother did constitutes abandonment," she explained, her voice steady but kind. "Leaving a minor without proper arrangements is against the law. There also appears to be financial misconduct involving the child support your father has been paying." I shifted uneasily. "I don't want my mom in trouble. I just want to be safe." "I understand," Rowena assured me, "but we need to establish legal protection for you, especially if you want to remain with your father." My father, who had been listening quietly, leaned forward. "Elone, the choice is yours, but know that I'm ready to seek full custody if that's what you want." The idea was both frightening and empowering. "You're 15, Rowena reminded me. "The court takes your preferences seriously, especially in cases of abandonment or neglect." After she left, my father showed me his office. On his desk were files documenting every attempt he had made to reach me. Court petitions for visitation, unanswered calls to my mother, even school emails that seemed never to have reached me. Then he handed me a letter from my mother's lawyer, written 3 years earlier. It threatened legal action if he contacted me directly, claiming he was harassing her and causing me distress. Piece by piece, the truth unfolded, revealing deliberate estrangement. My heart ached. Why would she do this, just to keep me from you? He sighed. I think it was more complicated. After the divorce, your mother struggled financially, and I hadn't yet found success. When my company grew and my situation changed, it was easier for her to maintain the story that I was uninvolved than admit she had kept us apart. 2 days later, just as I was settling into life with my father, my mother called. Her name flashed on my phone, freezing me with conflicting emotions. You don't have to answer, my father said softly. I let it go to voicemail. Minutes later, her message appeared. With trembling fingers, I hit play. Eloin, honey, there's been a terrible misunderstanding, she began in an overly cheerful voice. The plan was for you to stay home during our trip. Cassian thought it would be good for you to have independence, and I agreed. I didn't abandon you. That word is so harsh. Call me back so we can clear this up. Love you. Her attempt to rewrite reality turned my stomach. There had been no such plan, no discussion of independence. She had left me behind, and now she was trying to make me doubt my own memory. Classic, my father muttered, shaking his head. She hasn't changed. I chose not to return the call. With Rowena's guidance and my father's support, I decided to stay in Seattle permanently. The legal process began, filing for a custody change and documenting abandonment and financial misconduct. Meanwhile, my father focused on practical needs. You'll need clothes, school supplies, and personal items. We can shop today if you're up to it. The experience felt strange. His insistence that I pick what I wanted without checking prices overwhelmed me. I was used to thrift stores and clearance racks. By day's end, I had new clothes, a laptop, and a phone with unlimited data. A stark contrast to my restricted life with my mother. That evening, as we sat on the terrace overlooking the beach, I finally asked, "Why did you and Mom split up?" He stayed quiet for a long time. The simplest answer is that we wanted different things. She valued financial security and social status above all else. When my first business failed, she saw me as a disappointment rather than a partner facing setbacks. And you, I pressed. I wanted a true partner, someone who would stand through the storms, not leave at the first sign of trouble. His eyes softened. I never wanted to lose you alone. That was the hardest part. She used custody as a weapon until I was cut out of your life. In the days that followed, we discussed my future. He arranged for me to attend a top private school in Seattle and hired a child psychologist to help me process the abandonment and manipulation. For the first time, I began imagining a life where I was valued, not just tolerated. A week after my arrival, he and Rowena suggested retrieving my belongings from my mother's house while she was still in Ballet. You don't have to go, he said gently. I can handle it with the legal team. But I shook my head. I need to go. Some things there matter to me. We planned carefully. Flights, documents, movers. When the day came, I rewrote a letter to my mother, struggling to capture both my pain and my resolve to move forward. 3 days before her return, we entered the house. Me, my father, Rowena, and her assistant. Using my key, I opened the front door. The silence was unsettling, the house frozen in time. Walking through the familiar rooms felt strange, almost foreign. On the walls were countless photos of Cassian and his children, with my mother appearing occasionally. There were almost none of me, and none of us together. "Where's your room?" my father asked, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. I led him to the smallest room at the end of the hall. Inside, the space was neat but plain, far different from the decorated bedrooms we had passed. "This was your room?" he asked, stunned by its simplicity. "It's fine," I said automatically, a reflex born of years of being told to be grateful. His voice softened. "No, sweetheart, it's not fine. You deserved better." With the movers, we began packing. I chose carefully, leaving behind anything that came from my mother or Cassian, taking only what was mine or carried meaning. In the back of a desk drawer, I found a small box of treasures, photographs from before the divorce, birthday cards my father had sent, and the teddy bear from my 5th birthday. "You kept these," he said with emotion. "I never completely believed she was right about you not caring," I admitted. Then, in my closet, hidden under shoes, I uncovered a stack of envelopes in my father's handwriting. My heart pounded as I opened the first. A card for my 13th birthday with a note and an unused gift card. One by one, they revealed years of effort. Birthday wishes, holiday cards, updates, even his new address. My mother had hidden them all. "She kept these from me," I whispered, tears running down my face. "I thought you'd forgotten me." He pulled me into a tight embrace. "Never, not for a single day." As movers continued, I searched my mother's office for records. Documents Rowena confirmed I had a right to keep. In the divorce folder, I found proof of my father's consistent child support payments, far more than she had claimed. Court files showed his repeated attempts for visitation, each denied by her. The most revealing document was a draft letter to her attorney, written when she first met Cassian. It outlined a plan to minimize my father's role so she could build her new life. I was described as a complication to be managed. By late afternoon, the packing was complete. Sitting at my empty desk, I finally finished the letter I had been drafting for days. "Dear Mom," it began. Calling her mother felt too cold, while Mommy no longer seemed possible. I wrote of my sense of betrayal, not only from being left at the airport, but from years of being treated as a burden. I told her I had found the hidden letters and financial records, and that I now knew the truth about her choices. I chose to live with my father, not out of revenge, but because I deserve to be in a place where I am wanted and valued. Someday, I hope you'll realize the damage your decisions caused, not only to me, but also to yourself. Despite everything, I don't hate you, but I have to love myself enough to walk away. I placed the letter on the bare mattress of what had been my bed, the white paper stark against the blue sheet. Next to it, I left the house key as a final symbol of departure. Walking out for the last time, I felt an odd mix of loss, relief, and resolve. My father stood by the car, looking anxious. "All done?" he asked softly. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Without pressing further, he opened the door for me. As we drove away, I didn't look back. I focused on the life I could finally build ahead. 3 days later, my mother returned from Ballet. Within hours, my phone overflowed with messages. "Where are you? Why is your room empty? Call me now. This isn't funny. Come home immediately. I spoke to your father's lawyer. How could you do this after all I've done for you? Please come back, sweetheart. We can fix this. I miss you." The messages followed a pattern I knew too well: anger, guilt, and false apologies. I showed them to my father and Rowena, who both urged me not to respond until the legal process moved forward. A week later, my mother showed up unannounced at my father's house. She somehow had the address. The security system alerted us, her luxury SUV visible at the gate as she repeatedly pressed the intercom. "You don't have to see her," my father said. "Security can send her away." But I knew I had to face her. "I'll talk to her," I said firmly, "but I want you and Rowena with me." When the door opened, my mother's expression showed relief mixed with indignation. Dressed in a stylish sundress and expensive sunglasses, she looked every bit the image of suburban wealth. "Eloin, thank God!" she exclaimed, reaching to hug me. I stepped back instinctively, her arms dropping to her sides. "What's happening? Why did you leave? Why are you with him?" The way she said him carried so much venom, it made me flinch. "Perhaps we should take this inside," Rowena suggested calmly. Once we were seated in the living room, the truth began to unravel. I confronted her with the letters, cards, and financial records I had discovered, evidence she had hidden from me. My father confirmed years of child support payments and legal petitions she had denied. Her excuses fell apart. First, she accused me of invading her privacy. Then, she insisted she had only been protecting me from disappointment. Finally, cornered, she admitted she had feared losing Cassian if she put me first. The honesty, as painful as it was, cut deeper than her lies. "So you chose him over me?" I said quietly. "I chose financial stability," she replied. "No," I answered. "He offered you a better life." I was just extra baggage. Before she could respond, Cassian entered, furious that she had come. His controlling presence only made her shrink further, and once again she walked away, this time pulled by him instead of choosing me. After that, the court intervened. A restraining order was placed, and custody arrangements were revised. The hardest part was realizing my mother had been making this choice for years. Through every hidden letter, every fabricated story, every abandonment. Therapy helped me process the anger, grief, and relief tangled inside me. My counselor reminded me, healing isn't linear, and my mother's choices reflected her limitations, not my worth. Living with my father brought challenges, but also growth. At Westlake Academy, I made real friends for the first time in years. Slowly, I lowered my guard and allowed myself to connect. Rebuilding with my father was delicate. Sometimes, other times, the years apart left painful gaps. But we chose to keep showing up for each other, no matter what. Eventually, the court granted my father full custody. My mother was ordered to repay child support and granted only limited visitation. Despite her apologies, I set firm boundaries. I wouldn't live with her again, I wouldn't let her rewrite history, and I wouldn't excuse what she had done. My father never spoke badly of her. "Hating her will only harm you," he told me. "She gave me you. That's enough." Over time, my life expanded beyond the damage of the past. I found warmth in my father's extended family, excelled at school, and later pursued psychology and family law. My experiences inspired me to help children of divorce navigate their struggles with more support than I had. Forgiveness took years, but eventually I came to accept my mother's limits. On my 25th birthday, I wrote her, "Your ability to love unconditionally was broken long before I was born. Accepting this has freed me from waiting for something you cannot give." She replied with surprising honesty, You deserved better than what I could offer. I am sorry every day. At my wedding, my father walked me down the aisle, whispering all I ever wanted was for you to be happy. My mother was there too, quieter, more restrained, no longer trying to control the narrative. In the end, my father taught me that love is shown through presence, patience, and consistency. My mother taught me, painfully, the cost of valuing image over connection. Together, those lessons shaped who I became. What once defined me, being left at that airport, eventually became only one chapter of my life. A painful beginning that pushed me towards strength, resilience, and purpose. If you've ever felt abandoned by someone who should have protected you, know this: their failure does not define your worth. Family is not just blood. It's the people who choose, day after day, to show up and stay. Thank you for listening to my story.